way there, I realized as I looked to the background how much has changed just over the last several weeks of filming, and it makes me go, wow, I've been able to do this at least semi-consistently. And that's pretty exciting. That feels really, it feels like an accomplishment, obviously, but it also just feels like, I want to say a tiny miracle, but for me it doesn't feel like a tiny miracle. It feels like a pretty big one to be able to do, honestly, anything consistently that I'm excited about, that my heart leaps for, to be able to communicate with people. There's just been a joy to be able to do this, and as I keep saying, and I'm sure you're tired of hearing me say it, but I can't help but to say that I'm really grateful. That is the feeling I have. And as this video airs on Thanksgiving Day, we've had so much to be grateful for in the lives of our daughter. So as I've shared before, Annie is our youngest daughter. She is amazing. We adopted Annie in 2003, sorry. Her birth date is 2002, but she was 11 months old and gorgeous, yummy, yeah, you know, yummy, just yummy, and was very active and just, she had a very gregarious personality. What we know now is that Annie genetically carries a series of genes that is positive for Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And what that is, it's a connective tissue disorder. So there are multiple versions of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, all of which have markers, genetic markers, except for one, and that's the hypermobile version, until recently. You are diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos based on just a criteria of things that they observe. But what we have learned is that Annie was showing signs of these kinds of things long before we had a clue. She was in gymnastics when she was little. She was a phenomenal gymnast, which kind of goes hand in hand with the hypermobile version of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. They're finding comorbid things. Which one of those is the POTS, I'm not gonna try to pronounce it again. You can look back at the last video. I butcher it every time. But what it does is it raises her heart rate. A visual of what that really looks like for her is before her current medication and regimen, she would get up from our living room and go to the mailbox, and her heart rate would go from a normal resting heart rate of whatever, 71, something like that, to 200. That's what a marathon runner has in the midst of a marathon. And here's this girl, all Annie did was get up and go to the mailbox. And how that can be dangerous is that, one, she could pass out because the blood flow, that's part of the connective tissue stuff, is that your blood doesn't flow properly because of the insides don't work correctly. And at any minute, if she got up and is dizzy, she could pass out, she could hit her head, causing permanent damage, if not worse. When Annie came to us and said, I've been researching a lot, and there are people who have service dogs who help them with their POTS and EDS. And I'm like, great, I think that's a great idea. Only it can't be a big dog, and it can't be a dog that sheds. And I love the way the Lord says, that's so funny, because you're going to end up with a golden retriever and you're going to get two, only one of which is a service dog. So just saying all that to say that when the Lord provided, and so many of you in this community helped provide our girl with the resources to be able to secure sweet Astrid, who is her service dog. We got her as a puppy, and Annie felt strongly that she could, with help, I mean, she's had the help of other trainers, obviously, but she felt like, which I just marvel at, but she felt like she could train her. She said, I think I want to be that bonded with her. I feel like I can do this. She's passionate about, has always been an animal lover in our family. And so she did. Astrid will be 2 years old in January. So it's been almost 2 years that Annie has been a full-time college student, full-time training of Astrid, and in between all of that started running a business from her bedroom where she makes the patches for other service dog handlers, and now she makes the patches and the vest and just regular old dog gear. And you know, she's expanding and has clients all over the nation. And today on the video, you're gonna see graduation day. It was the culmination of the prayers and the gifts that most of you have shared for us and with us in her journey. That has given Annie such a sense of freedom and autonomy and the ability to imagine living on her own should she decide that that's what she wants to do next. Because prior to that, none of us were comfortable with that, because falling and being alone and hitting your head and all that could come with that, nobody wanted that scenario. And Astrid has just given her new life. Let's just put it that way. And sorry. So I stand here today saying thank you to all of you who contributed to her service dog fund. It was life-changing. It meant that she could not only acquire Astrid, but then she was able to continue the training and all of the things that have gone into this. And so now Astrid is a service dog. So you'll see her, you may still see her in a vest that says in training if you see her live and in person or even on the videos. But that's usually because Annie's taking her into an environment that maybe she still needs a little work on. Not that she can't do it, but that Annie wants her to feel even more and more confident. But then there are other times where, like at a restaurant, listen, my girl, my grand dog is phenomenal. You don't even know she's there. She walks in, she gets under the seat where Annie is with Annie's coaching, and she just stays there. One of the things that Astrid does that is kind of mind-boggling to all of us is that she has gone through scent training with Annie and working with another trainer, so that when Annie's heart rate shoots above, I believe it's 110 beats per minute, Astrid now can smell the pheromones exuding from Annie, and she boops her with her nose on her leg. So she'll take her nose and boop her leg, and that is Annie's signal from Astrid to go sit down, to go rest. And what typically happens is that Annie takes that signal and sits down, whether it's on the ground or in a chair, or lays down, depending on how high her heart rate has gone, how she's feeling. And Astrid has also been taught at this moment that now what her job is to lay on top of Annie, either on her lap or on her chest or wherever Annie is asking her to lay, because that is called deep pressure therapy, and it brings Annie's heart rate down to a normal rate much more quickly than just waiting it out. And it is so beautiful to watch, because on the outside looking in, you're like, well, that's sweet. Look, that dog, it's sitting on its owner, or it's laying down on top of her. Why is that girl laying down in the middle of a store? But it is therapeutic, and it's saving our girl from hurting herself, or from passing out, or from just not even being able to think, because there's not enough blood flow getting to her brain. All of that is part of why Astrid is a part of our family. It's what Astrid's job is. It's one of the many things. Astrid can pick up things for her, which again helps so that Annie doesn't have to lean over and possibly get dizzy and fall down. I wanted to say thank you to all of you who have contributed, who have prayed for us, who have prayed for her. I would ask you to extend those prayers for the rest of my girl's life, but certainly as Astrid transitions from a little puppy in training to the full full thing of going everywhere and doing everything that is required of her, because at the end of the day, she's still a dog. Like, people ask us all the time, because we had a hard time, like, are they like that all the time? Like, what happens when they're not wearing a vest? What happens when they're at home? Can you pet them? Can you play with them? And I just want to assure you, if you have any family members that are contemplating this, one, it's a never-ending job. Like, Annie will continue to train Astrid forever. Like, she's a dog. She's not a robot. You don't put a microchip in and then they just do that all the time. They're an animal, and they act like dogs. But she's so highly trained that you would mistake her obedience and her hyper focus and doing the things that's called of her for some version of like a robotic thing. What I can assure you is, even just this morning, Rob lets the two dogs, the two big girls, out. They go play, they come in, they go out, they go in, they go out. And this morning, Astrid loves her some digging. If the soil is soft at all, girl, she gonna get it all over her and muddy. And so poor Annie and I just did the initial wipe down. Annie gave her the bath. Like, she was a mess because she's a dog. And when she's not wearing her vest, she still can do all of the tasks without being asked. But she's a dog. Like, we get to enjoy her, and I call her my grand dog, and that, you know, I am grandma. The funniest part is Rob is grandpa, like pa. I know we think we're so funny. But I'm just saying all that to say this is part of our life. Like, every day we have these massive dogs in our house. We have the little dog that bosses us around. We've got chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. We got chronic Ehlers Danlos. We got POTS. We got all the things mixed into this weird jello mold of stuff. But there's immense joy that still comes. And the Lord is so good to give us the perfect scenario, the perfect dog for Annie. And today's video is about celebrating that. Lord, you have done this. This is you. This is your hand. The fact that my sweet girl doesn't have to be afraid 24/7 that something's going to happen to her when she's alone. She has a constant companion in the Holy Spirit and in Astrid. Love y'all. Thank you so much for everything you've done for her and for our family. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye. And headed out for a shopping spree. That would be nice. But there is shopping to be done. But today is, I don't know if many of you have fall graduations. Hi, Robin. But we do. And today is Astrid's graduation day. She is officially a full-fledged service dog. And that just means officially you can perform one task for your handler person who needs you, and she can perform multiple tasks. But we are having a graduation party tonight, and I am going out to get the decorations that I don't have. I have a couple of things, but I'm very excited. So there are treats and cookies and dog versions to be had. So that's what I'm out about to do. It's now afternoon. I've been trying to get out the door since this morning, but such is my life, such is how I roll. But we are celebrating today, which feels really good. She graduated several steps earlier, but the official ceremony was today in Knoxville at the last advanced service dog training session that Annie and Astrid and Madison went to. And I am headed out to get more decor. I have a banner up, but and I just want to I was talking to my oldest daughter Ellie about this. We were laughing because it's like celebrating these moments in such an extra way, probably to the rest of the world, is not for camera. This is how we have always lived. It's because this is how my mom lived. And I think I took it, and this is how my best friend, like when we would do birthday parties together, it was insane. And this was before Instagram and, you know, all the things. So we were not doing it so that everybody would look around and go, oh my gosh, you have a perfect life. It's just something in us. I don't know if it's coming from a small town, coming from a small southern town. I don't know, but I know with my mom, the reason it's so big to do things big, or was, is the hardships that she lived through in her life. And I think celebrating being alive, because for her that felt like that felt like an accomplishment given her circumstances. And I am so, once again, I say this a lot, but I am so grateful that that is part of the DNA that is inside of me, emotionally and spiritually, to go, yeah, let's mark this. The Bible talks about raising an Ebenezer, which just simply means, or putting stones and building up a thing. It means you make a moment count in a tangible way so that you never forget how amazing our God is and the things that he's done for us. And so celebrating, like all through the Old Testament, it's all about festivals, and some of them are hard, like some of them include fasting, but then others are like, let's celebrate, let's feast, let's do, just like blow the doors off, because it matters. And that has been, once I learned those things, because I didn't learn those things about the Bible until I was an adult, but tying that into my childhood, tying that into why it's so important to me to celebrate birthdays, even my own, because it's like this matters. Like we've made it this far, we're alive, we're still in the world making a difference, hopefully in some form or fashion. And so for sweet little Astrid, she's not gonna know the difference, but my Annie girl will, and she does. And it has always mattered, from birthday parties to gotcha days, which is for adoptive families, it's the day that we got her. I would rather celebrate every seemingly insignificant thing in my life than to go through life not realizing how incredibly special these moments are. Because I think, and I want to be really careful when I say this, because it's not a slam to anyone else. It is how I am reflective about my own motivations for things, honestly. And it would be, for me, it would be arrogant to not stop and just blow the doors off every time something miraculous happens. And the fact that we were able to raise the funds for Annie to even have a service dog, the fact that she's able to train her own service dog, the fact that she found trainers who are exceptional and kind and so encouraging to her, that's all miraculous for us. And so today we celebrate in a big, big way that this has happened. He's made a way through the forest and streams in the desert in this as well. So we are going to celebrate our wonderfully made golden retriever English cream colored dog, and celebrate my wonderfully made daughter, even though her wonderfully made body struggles enough to have a service dog. We're going to celebrate all of that. So anyway, love y'all. Talk to you soon. Bye. Okay, first stop on the journey is naturally Pet Supermarket. We're going in and we're going to get some yummies for the graduate and friends for Rizzy and Robin. And definitely no better place to get gifts than Marshalls. Okay, I think that was the fastest trip into Marshalls in the history of me going into Marshalls, but I found some really cute things, and we'll show you later, hopefully at the graduation party. Talk to you soon. Bye. Okay, the only thing that the wonderful Marshalls did not have was a good selection of just regular gift bags, let alone graduation gift bags. It was all Christmas. So we're gonna go in here and get us some lovely gift bags for the babies and some balloon action. Hello. And look at the lovely moms. So pretty. Sorry for the very dramatic zoom in. Anyway, beautiful. Good, how are you? Okay, coming to you live from Party Central. We got the back and we got the front. What could go wrong? What could possibly go wrong with this scenario? It's gonna be perfect. Anyway, I am so excited. My adrenaline is just pumping. I'm sure I will crash later tonight, but that's okay because I cannot wait for Annie to get home and have this celebration for her and for Astrid. Okay, we're almost done. Nothing is ironed. Again, perfectly imperfect, but we have Annie's gifts over here. We have Astrid's gift right here in the middle. Got a couple of gifts for Robin right there, the taco, because the only toy she came to us with was a giant taco. In there, my baby. And then anything that you see that's pink, that is for Rezzy. And Rezzy gets a little party hat, Astrid gets the gold hat, and then Robin has the big matching hat with Rezzy. We have, what's her name? Astrid's graduation gifts right here. We've got bunting and banners. Let's see if I can I still have more to put up outside, so. But here's the walk-in. Yes, my darling. And then Rezzy is very angry at the balloons outside. Rezzy, are you angry? There are the balloons. Let's see if we focus. There they are. And of course we have the bunting up here that says we are proud of you.
Oh my goodness, there's a graduate girl right there. She graduated, she's a full-on service dog. Oh wow, that's great.
Isn't that awesome?
That is so cool. Congratulations, Ann.
High five, baby.
That is awesome. That's awesome. What are you doing? You're a silly girl. She says, I'm a graduate. She says, I'm a graduate. Are you a graduate? Yes, you are. You are a graduate.
Official service dog test. Do you need a rest before we open presents? You look so beautiful. Oh my goodness, you're the queen.
Oh, you're the best.
You're such a queen.
You're so beautiful. Baby, you look so pretty. And these balloons are for you. Yeah.
I love Astrid's leaving hers on.
Robin, look, it's the graduation party. Oh my goodness, everybody's so pretty. Rezzy, look at you. Oh, wow. Oh my goodness, look at you. She said, yeah, I look great. Anything, people. She's like, I don't care. Give me that.
Okay, that's hilarious. Oh! Colossal fail.
Ready? Oh, what is it? Is it a dragon? Is he a service dragon just like you? Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
These two are very comfortable with their hats.
She's like, oh my god, you have something on your head too. Emotional support lattes.
I figured those are Rezzy size.
Oh yeah.
After her initial diagnosis, there were moments where we just weren't sure what all of that was going to mean. Maybe give you some clinical definitions and some background on Annie's story. In April of 2011, in fact, the exact day that we had been praying as a family after a series or after a sermon that Rob did called What Would God Do in 52 Days? And I had circled the calendar of what in the world will God do in those 52 days. And there were changes that were happening in our church. And 52 days later, unbeknownst to the elders who are part of this story, they, on that day, asked Rob to be the lead pastor of North Metro Church. And while that was unexpected, it wasn't something we were ever seeking after for sure. We thought we were going to be missionaries in Hong Kong. We had our house for sale, like we were ready any minute. But that same day, Rob comes home. We've talked on the phone. We're going, is this really what the Lord's asking of us? And so there was this like fear of and overwhelming feeling, but then there was also that celebratory. Anytime you feel like you are in that sweet zone of, Lord, this feels hard, but this feels like you. He came home, and before he even came in the house, I was inside, I think maybe getting dinner ready, something. And the girls were outside playing, and he grabbed Annie, as they had done many times before, and went up our hill. The neighborhood we lived in had literally, the part of the name is hills, and they went up on their scooter. It's just the little, like, pedal push it scooter, and nothing. And there was no gas power. There was nothing electric. They would go up to the top of this hill and then come down it as this big, fun father-daughter adventurous thing. Well, this day, Rob grabbed the wrong scooter, and this one had a trick bar on it. And he and Annie are at the top of this hill, and they come down, and as he's hitting what he thinks is the brake, it was not the brake, it was the trick bar. And that trick bar created a whirlwind of events that I feel like sometimes we're still recovering from. And the scooter went out from under him, and they were at such a high speed coming down the hill that when it did, both he and Annie hit the ground full force. Her jaw was broken in 2 places. She lost 6 teeth, 3 of which were baby teeth, so not a huge loss, but the other 3 were permanent teeth, one in the front, and then 2 of her molars literally cracked in 2 because we assumed that she was clenching, you know, as anticipating the fall. Rob dislocated or broke his collarbone. So it was a giant mess. And in fact, when Ellie ran in to get me, and I'm, you know, doing the whole like, okay, here's what we're doing. Ellie, go be with the neighbors. I grab the keys, get Rob and Annie into the car, and we've got literally a pillow under Annie holding, because we didn't know her jaw was broken. We didn't know what all had happened. There was just blood everywhere. And same for Rob. He's just, you know, sitting in the front seat, just moaning and groaning because he's in so much pain. We get to the emergency room and they think we've been in a car accident. I mean, that's how dramatic the moment was. And I'm telling that story to preface that was sort of a shift in Annie's health that never really recovered. That is not what caused what she's dealing with now, but what we believe to be true partly is that anytime the body goes through major trauma, both emotionally but also physically, it can set things off that would have already been maybe genetically there, as we have discovered, and you start seeing the cascade of that from that point on. And the reason I bring up how gregarious and outgoing and all of that she was is that was sort of the season where that began to change, because she was in pain for 6 weeks and we didn't know that her jaw was broken because she couldn't open her mouth enough for us to even know that. That season sent us to the hospital so that was April. By September of that year, she spent a week in Children's Hospital in Atlanta because one of those molars that had cracked open, even though the dentist had worked on it, trying to repair it, because it was a permanent teeth, they didn't want to remove it, you know, in hopes that it would be okay. But one of those molars became infected and she went sepsis. Her face was so swollen, she looked like all of us Gen Xers who ever had the mumps. If you remember what that looked and felt like, that's what she looked like. So that set off an inflammatory response, obviously. The doctors couldn't understand why her jaw and the gums and all of the tissue around her teeth were not healing properly, why they couldn't get a handle on the infection, which was why we were in the hospital for a week. How Annie's hypermobile version of EDS, I'm just going to say EDS from now on because it's easier to say than pronouncing the whole thing, how her EDS affected her at 9 when they had the accident is that it means that her tissues do not heal in the same speed and in a same healthy way that most people would. And that was why everybody was scratching their head going, she's so young, why is this not healing? And then when she was in junior high and high school, she's having this chronic, severe knee pain with no explanation as to why, because it's not as though she was in a sport like soccer or lacrosse or anything like that where she would have hyperextended her knee being physical in that way. What we now know is people with EDS, especially the hypermobile version, can hyperextend their knee by just standing up or going upstairs. Like, it doesn't require a great deal of exertion for them to do that. And again, it has to do with the connective tissue disorder and how it affects the knee joint. Part of our story and our journey with Annie's diagnosis was that we were just trying to figure out the whole knee pain. It made no sense whatsoever. And because it wasn't a sports injury, hadn't occurred to me to take her to an orthopedic. We had gone to endocrinologists, we had gone to rheumatologists, we had gone, just like with my story, we had seen all the ologists, and they all kind of shrugged and went, blood works fine. Like, don't know, can't tell you why you're having knee pain. It wasn't until we saw an orthopedic surgeon, and that was just the Lord going, take her to an orthopedic. And I heard that one day, I was like, okay, but it's not a sports injury. Like, sure, we'll go. And sure enough, that was the first time anyone had said, oh, well, you probably have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and just kind of kept going. And we're like, wait, time out, what is that? And we had also just done some genetic testing for Annie, simply because of her and Ellie's adoption situation. There is no information on birth parents. There wasn't any available, and we were never given any. And so medical records, it's always one of the hardest things to put, is that section where it says family history of XYZ diseases. They both have to go, you tell me, we have no idea. And so we did the genetic testing through a physician to be able to have hopefully some idea of a map of what their bodies are predisposed to have, or maybe explain some of the things they're already dealing with. And so once we realized, oh my goodness, she checks every box for Ehlers-Danlos, and then the realization of how many versions there were, not knowing, okay, does she have this one, does she have that one? And there is a version called vascular EDS that, unlike the other versions of EDS, has the potential to, especially in young women, cause early death. It ruptures basically vessels and connective tissue inside the body. Well, we went to Vanderbilt to have that genetic testing checked and double checked and run through twice, because for 3 months we thought she had the vascular version. But I'll be honest, when that first night, when we thought this could be our reality, because it did show up, we thought, on one of the early tests, I was in the fetal position. And I'm crying out to the Lord, going, basically, take me. Don't take her. Don't do this to a beautiful girl who started out life in a very difficult situation and position. And not just because I love her, but because she has so much to offer this world. And I also knew there is no reason on God's green earth why it could not have been her. Just the same way it is for every parent that has to go through this with their child. It's entirely possible that Annie's test would come back positive for the vascular version. So fast forward, we lived through 3 months of holding our breath, not knowing, and by God's grace, for whatever reason He allowed, we are eternally grateful that she does not have that version. So what we are left with, however, is the version that makes life challenging. So we're not sitting back terrified every day that something inside of her is going to rupture and we're going to be in the emergency room or worse. But she does deal with symptoms of the EDS, the hypermobility, the way that it causes pain in her body, and all of what they're finding comorbid things. Once all of these pieces of the puzzle that for nearly 2 decades were just random, bizarre symptoms finally came into focus of like, oh, it's all the same thing. Like we have labels for 2 things, which they now kind of think is under the umbrella of EDS. It's a spectrum disorder, not autistic spectrum disorder, but it's a spectrum disorder, meaning you can have various versions of it. And she has good friends who have POTS and EDS, and their day or their symptoms have similarities but can look very different. And so it's not a cookie cutter thing. It's not one thing, because each person is different and each body is different, as you would expect. So there's way more information than you're going to want to hear in just this vlog. So I will list some links for everyone so that you can see and understand, and maybe you've been wondering what's going on with you or your child, and maybe you see a checklist and think, I need to take her in and take them in and take myself in and see if that applies to me.
Astrid likes to watch Rezzy. Because she's the coolest ever. Aren't you, Rezzy? Watch me tump my bowl over. Rezzy, do not tump that over. The only bad habits Astrid has picked up from Rezzy.